Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. How are we doing?
Doing good.
Very awesome.
Chilling.
My name is John.
Okay.
I think we didn't introduce ourselves last episode.
Whoops.
We keep forgetting to do that. This week we are covering a movie,
Teeth.
Teeth. This is not my pick. Last week was my pick, so you're
My
picking. Yep.
pick.
So why don't you elaborate? Why'd you pick this movie?
I picked this movie because I think it is an interesting take on a very serious subject. And I wanted to explore how this movie portrays rape culture. So, trigger warning. We're going to be discussing rape, sexual assault, purity culture, a lot of triggering subjects. So, if those things are not things that you feel like will sit well with you at this point, feel free to skip this episode. Self care is very important. Always put yourself first.
But give it a like.
Yeah.
Give the episode a like before we leave. And then we're also so people actually listen to this episode, we're gonna be saying like essay, R word, peen, cooch. Like get around the algorithm. So if you're wondering why we're saying that, that's why.
Yep.
So let's hop right into the fun facts of the movie. Are you ready for these fun facts?
I'm so
I
ready.
don't have a single fun fact for this movie. So,
Aw.
it was directed by Mitchell. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Lichtenstein, and it stars Jess Wexler. It premiered. Okay, so when I was looking at the release date, I saw two different things. I saw 2007 and 2008. So typically, what that means is like maybe release in December, like a festival or something like that, and then maybe a couple months later, had like a worldwide release in 2000,
I saw it
something like
did
that.
come out in a movie festival.
Yep. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna get to. So why don't you let me read this?
Okay, God.
So it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 19th,
I
20
already knew that.
January 19th, 2007. And it received a limited release in United States January 18th, 2008.
Oh.
Oh, that's a big gap. Feel
Yeah?
like it's weird, like that. They're like, I guess we'll release this. Maybe they couldn't find a distributor or something like that.
Yeah, it does seem to be one of those movies that, I don't know, companies might be like, "Nah, I don't know about this one."
Yeah. Well, the box office proves it because on a budget of $2 million, it made 2.3. Clearly, it's like an indie movie. That's kind of like indie movie budget. It honestly looks pretty good for being 2 million. I was kind of expecting maybe being around like six or something like that.
Mm.
Maybe a little more million behind it. But I mean, it's an indie movie.
I have no concept of movie budgeting, so whatever you say, expert.
And then Rotten Tomatoes, my favorite review place
So
ever. I love
trustworthy.
Rotten Tomatoes.
They always have the best opinions.
I love this one. So it's an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Kind of high, I think. But
I'm surprised by that.
yeah, me too. But you're probably not gonna be surprised by this. This is the only time I'm gonna include this. Has an audience Rotten Tomato score of 45%.
L take.
I love to include that in because people, whenever they want their opinion to be right, they'll source whatever number aligns with what they think.
Yeah.
So I mean, people, Star Wars fans, love to do this. They're like, "This movie sucks. Look at the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. It has like 40%." It's like, yeah, because a fucking review bomb movie. So like, of course, it's gonna
Yeah.
have a 40%.
I
So
would love to know the demographic breakdown of the people that shit all over this movie. Just out of curiosity. I'd love to know how many of those bad reviews came from men who were like, this makes men look bad. We're not all our words."
our word is. um, but yeah, that's literally all the fun facts. I don't even know where this movie was filmed. Couldn't find any information on it. So
I saw a little interview with the director that talked about how, when he talks to people, I don't have the source in front of me, so this is very loosely quoting, but he said that when he talks to people, he'll mention that he directed Teeth, and people immediately shift their body languages and responses and are like, "Oh, you're the guy who did Teeth. Okay."
I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's not like that gory. Maybe because I've seen worse, but like, not even
It's
saying like worse movies. Just mean like
it's pretty
gory.
graphic at
I mean,
times.
yeah, it is, but I mean, like, there's worse things out there.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of taboo about what you should and shouldn't show in movies, and I feel like this crosses a line in a lot of people's minds with the nudity.
Nudity, even though they
Ooh.
know they're getting into a rated R movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
like,
I mean, past that, there's mutilation.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I mean, like, torture porn movies, like Saw and stuff like that, have been around at this point in 2008 for almost like 10 years. So, I mean, like, I feel like audiences should be used to that. I mean, like, from my opinion, I feel like a movie like Saw is way more graphic than this because I mean, it's just penis or peen.
Yeah, well, people are inherently gonna take that a certain way because of its sexual nature. Because they'd rather see someone get beheaded and have all their limbs ripped off than see genitalia.
Genitalia.
Ooh.
We don't even see her
Her teeth.
her teeth. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But we maybe see a bunch of other. But I am glad they at least showed what the teeth look like.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of curious whether or not they're like human choppers or they're like shark teeth, and I got my answer. They were basically shark teeth.
Yep. Maybe we should explain the premise of this
Yeah, because
movie.
we're kind of just hopping right into this. So we're never really making much sense of it.
Mm.
People are probably like, what is this movie? What are we talking about? So, do you want me to do it? Do you want to do it?
We can do it together.
Okay, yeah, let's say it in unison. Teeth
Uh,
isn't. All right, you go.
Teeth is about a woman who discovers from a young age that she's got teeth in her coochie and she can use them at will.
Well, yeah, yeah, I guess. But that's exactly what I was gonna say anyway. So you really
Oh,
nailed
okay.
it.
We're so in sync.
Yeah, I think the movie's kind of a little confusing. Like where it's like at will. They don't really show it till the end, so you don't really know it's at will until
Yeah.
like you see it's willed.
Yeah.
So, but uh, I hadn't seen this movie before. You'd seen this, so what did you think about it on a rewatch? Did you like it more? Did you like it less? Or
I think I thought more deeply about the themes in the movie rather than being like, "Oh, it's gory, nasty." Because the first time I saw it, I want to say I was like 16, 17. So I wasn't thinking that deeply about it, but being 24 now and a therapist, I feel like that really changes my perspective on things.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was decent. I mean, like I didn't like love the movie. I'm not sure if like I would like revisit this like soon. I'd probably rewatch it at some point, but I thought it was decent. It's a decent horror movie. I like how it actually has like the message to it and stuff like that. Unlike a lot of other horror movies, especially in like the 2000s, where it's just like people are gonna get killed because it was willed that way in the script. There's not really like any theming to it, but like in this one, there's like an actual theme to it. It actually has like a purpose for existing, and it's kind of a unique message for horror movies, especially at this time.
Yeah, and I want to say that's probably why it wasn't taken very well by the audience is if you're going into it with the mindset of like it's the early 2000s horror movie, you're not going to think that there's a woman perpetrating violence and it's justified violence and that the men are the ones that are victims of this violence.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what's the topic we're gonna cover before we kind of talk too much about what we think of the movie?
Um We're going to be bouncing around a little bit. We're going to talk about the concept of virginity and how it came to be and what it means, what it doesn't mean. And then we're going to go into our word culture, what kind of perpetrates that, how this movie conveys that theme, and what this movie tells us about sexuality.
Yeah, sexuality.
Yep.
So I guess kind of hopping right back, kind of where we were thinking about the movie. I think everyone was actually pretty good in it. I mean, like usually, like indie movies, especially ones that are like only a $2 billion budget, usually like the acting kind of sucks. But like the acting's actually pretty good in this. I feel like there's not really any like bad performances. I can't really think of any.
Yeah. I mean, there are goofy characters, but I don't feel like that means that they're
Yeah,
poorly acted.
yeah, because I think like the guy towards the end that R words here and like slips her the pills, like he's definitely a goofy character, but like that guy plays it so well, and I
Yeah.
think he's kind of like funny to like watch, like him at least.
And honestly, I kinda like that part about it because people have this conception of what a person who does the R word looks like and acts like, and in the beginning, you're like, "Oh, it's just this goofy guy that wanted a shot with this girl that he liked, and he's funny, and he's just a little awkward and silly," and you don't think that he's gonna be the type of guy who does that
Yeah.
stuff.
And, like, he literally does it, like, when she's, like, most vulnerable. Like, she comes because at this point in the movie, uh, the brother kind of ignored the mother, so the mother's in the hospital. So then Dawn goes to this guy's house and, like, just to, like, talk to somebody, and then
She
he's
has
like
nobody else in her life to talk to at this point because everybody else in her life has taken advantage of her.
yeah. And then this dude just is like when she's in the bathtub, he's like, "I'm gonna, like, light some candles," and he pops some champagne.
"Oh, I'm gonna give you some pills. This helps my mom when she has anxiety." Totally, uh, not motivated by anything. "I just want you to feel less anxious and feel a little better."
Also, is that bathtub in his garage? That's kind of was wondering where the location of that bathtub was,
Maybe.
because I know he lives in the garage, but is that the same room? Because I wasn't sure if his parents were there or not.
Uh,
Because the next day, his parents are there because
yeah, I
he
don't
gets
know.
chomped.
I don't know.
It's a nice bathroom for a garage,
That is a
though.
nice I would live in that
I
garage.
would live in that garage too, as long as there's some air conditioning in there.
Yeah.
Sign me up. uh, yeah. I mean, I don't really have like a ton of thoughts because it's like I think the movie is what it is, and it doesn't expand on it. There's no like major twists or anything like that. I do like the purity ring stuff. I think that's a good way to start off because I like the opening where uh Brad puts his little grubby finger in her cooter and then like gets chomped. And then like that's a pretty good opening. The title card kind of sucks though. I hate the title card.
It's pretty bad.
I think it's supposed to show that like the chemical plant is, like, affecting her cells.
Yeah.
I think that's the purpose of it.
That's the only meaning I can draw from that, honestly.
Yeah. The score is actually pretty decent. The movie's kinda quiet, but, I mean, the score is kinda decent.
Goes kinda hard.
Does kinda go a little hard. Yeah, what do you have to say about it?
I like the opening because in the beginning, you're like, "There's something different about this girl," and I feel like I'm supposed to respect her for it, and I don't really know why. Because Brad seems like a little shithead, and obviously he sucks, but we really don't know what exactly he did. And it seems that she uses the whole purity thing to distract from what happened because it's very clear that she's scared of her own body after that happens and doesn't really understand because she's like terrified to explore that side of herself.
Yeah, and it seems like she, like, forgot the opening scene. It seems like she, like, repressed that event.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a conscious, "I'm trying to forget this. I'm gonna pretend it never even happened," but in the back of her mind, she does remember, or she actually doesn't remember. I don't really know.
Hmm. I don't think she does because I think there's, like, a moment where, like, she does remember. But it's not, like, visual it's, like, visually told, it's not, like, explicitly said.
Yeah, there's that part where she sees the movie with the bug with the pinchers and it triggers something in her. So I don't know if it's a situation with like the body keeps the score where she's triggered by it, but she doesn't really know why.
Yeah.
Or if that gave her some sort of flashback or something that we just weren't shown.
Yeah, maybe. I do think that she probably forgot that event.
She
Also,
also was 3-ish,
yeah, she was young, and
so
the dude Brad was 6,
yeah,
I think.
something like that.
Yeah, he's interesting. He has cool
Yeah.
mutton chops.
There's just something inherently really fucking weird about that storyline overall. The fact that throughout the movie, he's like, I've always been in love with you. This was always meant to be. It's like you were 6
Yeah,
ish when you met her. You can't tell me that this dude at like 6 years old was like, yep, her, gonna marry her. Cause I don't know, knowing 6-year-old boys at that point in their lives, they're usually like, ew,
yeah.
girls, gross.
Did you like that twist?
The fact that he was in love with her the whole
Yeah.
time and always wanted to be with her.
Yeah, cause like, I mean, like, it's kind of implied in the beginning, but, I mean, like, not really, but, like, it just seems like that he hates her, but not like he loves her.
I kinda hate that twist, honestly.
I don't dislike it. I think it's interesting because it's kind of a thing, it's like whether or not it's a twist to be a twist, or if it actually works within the story, and I think it does kinda do the draw the line of, like, being a twist to be a twist, but I don't know, I kinda like it.
Why?
Just because, like, the whole movie, like, you're seeing, like, oh, he hates her, and, cause she sucks, and so yeah, 'cause, like, in the beginning, he doesn't wanna play with her at the pool, and so the twist kind of recontextualizes the opening where he was trying to make a move on her and did. So, I think the twist sort of makes sense.
Ugh, I don't know, I really hate it. I really don't like it. Cause in my opinion, I'm like, he was so young at that point, and this whole time, his gross behavior towards her, we're now finding out that he's been mentally justifying because, "Oh, he's in love with her. I'm in love with her, so I'm allowed to take advantage of her. I'm entitled to her body. It was always gonna be me and her in the end," and he even kinda says that to her, which I'm like, "Ew."
Yeah, but don't you think that adds to, like, the R word culture that this movie's kind of implying to? That men thinking they have ownership of a woman that, like, they, 1, don't, or 2, barely know, and they
I
just think they're entitled to it?
I think my problem with it is because they were so young.
So do you think that twist would work if she was, like, 12 and he was, like, 13?
Yeah.
That makes
Because
sense.
I feel like at 6 years old, I don't know, how many 6-year-olds are doing, like, SA type shit?
I mean, yeah, I don't really know, but, like, we don't really know his full upbringing either. So, I mean, it
Yeah,
is a possibility he's obviously not a very nice person. So,
yeah. I just feel like developmentally it doesn't fit.
yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm not gonna, like, argue, like, "Oh, it's the greatest twist of all time. What are you talking about?" But, I mean, like, I kinda like it. I think, like, it sort of works. I don't really think it's, like, a great twist, but I think it kind of works within the story, like, it kinda adds to the theme a little bit of, like, the R word culture and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just getting hung up on the part where it's like, I just don't believe that he's always been in love with her since he met her and he always thought he was gonna be with her in the end. I just can't see that. I think that he pulled that out of his ass to try to justify his behavior, honestly.
I don't think he did, because he tries to make a move on her without the parents even being
But
there.
I don't think it's because he loves her.
I think he just wants to fuck her.
Yeah. But he uses that and twists it as like, "Oh, I've always wanted to be with you." Like, you don't love her.
Yeah. Um,
You just suck. You just wanna take advantage of her under the guise of love
yeah,
because that's what she wants in her life is love, and that's how he can justify it to her and, like, pitch it to her in a prettier package in a way.
yeah. Does have sick mutton chops, though.
I don't know, I guess I'm just struggling because That twist conveys a really important theme of men feeling like they inherently own women's bodies or are entitled to them because they're there. Why not? Like, that's mine. I stick my claims on it, whatever. But ugh, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me, and I don't know if that's because it doesn't fit or because it's just the theme of our word culture and like this almost like incest type relationship just feels gross to see.
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to be
I
gross.
know, I think that's why it's not sitting well with me is because I can't get past that, like, ugh feeling to see how it fits in
Yeah.
with the storyline.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm not gonna like argue with it about it too much, but I think it's interesting that the two different takes on it because I could definitely understand why somebody wouldn't like that twist because it sort of comes out of nowhere. So it's really whether or not you can recontextualize the opening or if you can accept in the opening that somebody would do that at such a young age.
Yeah. Well, it's also it raises the question of, is he using that as an excuse for his behavior? Because I like to see it in that way. He's using it as an excuse for his gross behavior.
But I don't think he is using excuses. I think he actually genuinely like loves her, but he's just a horrible human being.
I think he's always seen her in a vulnerable position, and that makes him drawn to take advantage of
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't think it's a love, I think it's you know how people say, like, women should kinda play dumb and wanna be chased by the men and
Mm.
wanna be pursued? I think he took her resistance as her being like, "Teehee, he should chase after me. I'm not gonna just let him have it. He needs to work for it." Like, he misinterpreted
Mm.
the way that she's acted as, like, she's trying to draw him in a way.
Yeah. I mean, he is a fucking idiot, so I wouldn't be
He
surprised
is
if
an idiot.
be surprised if that's how it was interpreted. But I think that's interesting. But maybe we can move on to the purity ring stuff.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk briefly about the concept of virginity and how it came to be because it's such a big part of how women are viewed in society, especially in um religious settings and any kind of group that pushes purity culture. And I have to reference the Jonas Brothers because seeing the purity rings, that was initially triggered in my mind is the Jonas Brothers
I
wearing
literally
their
said you
purity
as a joke. I'm
rings.
like, is this a Jonas Brothers reference?
So I'm gonna pull up a definition here from schoolofsexed.org. Virginity has long been a key factor in determining a woman's worth, and therefore their bodies are heavily policed. The emphasis on virginity emerged as our ancestors moved from communal hunter gatherer communities to land owning societies. Keeping land meant having more male heirs, and therefore it was imperative that there be no question of parentage. The solution? To ensure that a wife is a virgin to secure a pure lineage, land, and ultimately power.
Okay. So it's come from the need has moved from to own land to own a woman, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah. And I think even the wording that we use around the concept of virginity, which is a social construct, by the way, I'm putting that out there, is that there's no correct definition of virginity. It's whatever society wants it to be,
Mm.
basically. So people will justify like, "Oh, I'm still a virgin even though I've done sexual things," if they don't wanna perceive those sexual things as losing their virginity. I don't know, people use social constructs in whatever way they want to twist it to fit their narrative, to call women impure or to say, "Oh, no, you're still pure." But it really has no meaning, and it's a stupid concept, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything.
And it also does not apply to men either.
That's true.
So, because I don't think well, men are like prided on losing their virginity.
Mm,
Like there's no like, oh, you need to save yourself unless you're super religious. But I mean, like, there's no one really pushing men to be like, oh, you need to save yourself to meet the right woman. No one's saying that, but everyone says, not everyone, but a lot of people say that to women.
yeah. Kinda where I was going with that is that we say, "Oh, I took her virginity," and a woman loses something. So we still use the wording of the woman's giving something up and the man is forcefully taking it.
Hmm.
So she has to lose something and he has to gain something. Also very heteronormative, by the way.
Yeah. Um, I think it really a lot of it just ties back to like religion and stuff like that because having saving your virginity and stuff like that really comes back to Catholicism and how like I mean through the decades and centuries people overall were like you need to save yourself till marriage and that was kind of the normative until maybe like late 1900s or something like that or 20th century because technically we're in the 21st century. I don't know how that works, but anyways, until like the late 20th century that was kind of like the norm and then people started to break away from that. But since then it hasn't really evolved for the same way that it has for women as it has for men because with men it's just oh, you should bang her and take her virginity and stuff like that. But no one is saying to a woman like you should fuck f that dude. You should f that dude and take his virginity. No one's really saying that. It's kind of like uh one of those double standard things that still hasn't really
Yeah.
been addressed yet.
I think that really highlights how we have a long ways to go. Have we made progress? Absolutely. But have we solved the problem? No, by no means have we solved the problem. And there very much still is a double standard around that and how virginity is used to like conquer a woman. A woman's virginity is weaponized against her. Like if she's a virgin, then it's like, ew, why are you a virgin? You need to stop being so stuck up. But if she has multiple partners, then it's like, "Oh, you're a whore. You're dirty. You're used
Yeah.
up. You're no good anymore." And every man is supposed to, in society's eyes, want to conquer a woman, but every woman should be resisting that? Like how does that mathematically work here?
Yeah. I will say that at least in terms of media portrayal, it has gotten a lot better. I feel like media portrayal has gotten a lot more sex positive,
Yeah.
and there's less of like I mean like I you know how much I love American Pie. American Pie is I think it's like one of my favorite movies. It's so stupid, but a lot of that movie is like exactly with the heteronormative like taking a woman's sexuality losing their virginity before college and stuff like that and like this drive to have sex for their for their social status I
Yeah.
feel like has kind of gone away and it's not really used as much and when it's used now it's kind of cringe and like
Yeah.
bad so at least like in terms of media portrayal I feel like it's gotten a lot better but whether or not because look society is a big thing like we can't even agree on anything in the United States so I mean like it's hard to because different cultures are from different all over the place stuff like that, but at least in terms of United States, I feel like it hasn't really gotten any better, and it really depends on people's upbringings and stuff like that, and whether or not that culture is breeded in their household or not.
Yeah, I think now purity culture is more like I'm trying to think of the word for it. It's like it's not a huge integral part of our society. It's kind of like one of those groups that's like on the outskirts where people will look down upon that in a sense, but also we still integrate some of those themes into society as a whole. So even if you're not religious, you're not pushing waiting until marriage, you might still have some of those like biases and beliefs about virginity that's influenced by that group.
Yeah, I think like the original idea of saving yourself till marriage loose ends of it still sort of exist, but that's what I'm saying. It only really exists for women, but not for men. Like when a dude that goes around is just a man whore, no one really says anything. I mean, I'm not like saying anything groundbreaking here. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge that like a dude could go around and fuck whoever, and then no one would bat an eye. But if a woman did the same thing, it'd be they're a whore, they're a slut, and stuff
Yeah,
like
you're
that.
used goods. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
wanna save that for your husband? Save that for someone who matters to you?
yeah, eh,
And women being inherently sexual, even though it's no different from men, it's frowned upon. It's seen as like, "Oh, you're weird if you're a woman that wants sex."
yeah.
But if you're a man that wants sex, that makes you normal.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think a lot of people know this. It's just whether or not they acknowledge it. It's not like we're like saying super something extreme here.
No.
Everyone knows about this, but it's important to bring up because it kind of ties back to that purity culture and where it originates from, and where it is now is interesting. Even from the difference between when this movie came out in 2007 or 2008, and whatever you want to base it off of, but uh just how much society has changed. And I feel like society has become more sex positive, at least in terms of media portrayal, like I said. But those detractors still exist.
I think it's also important to highlight the fact that people who were affected by purity culture when it was at its peak, I mean, those people are we still have people alive today who were deeply ingrained in purity culture as children, and they still live with those effects.
Yeah. And
Like,
it leads to like sexual shame as well. Like if you
yeah.
view any sexual act as like shameful.
And even when two people who were part of purity culture get together, they still have problems in their sex lives together because that waiting and all that purity culture stuff was so ingrained in them that makes anything sexual shameful still in a way, and they also don't have the knowledge of their bodies that they should at that point, so it also makes things very confusing because we see in the book that they covered up the anatomical woman diagram, but not the man, so we're kind of taught indirectly that women's parts are shameful, should not be seen, need to be concealed. So men are going in blind and confused, and this is the first time they're navigating this and coming to understand the anatomy.
Yeah. And I remember this in high school. We took like this physical ed class, and of course it's one of those days when you take one of those physical ed classes where they have to show you sexual warts and stuff like that. And they flashed on the screen a bunch of dudes with like warts on their dicks and shit like that, but no like showing what like a cooter looks like with like warts or anything like that. Like I remember that. Like I always saw penis, but no coochie. And that sounds weird me saying like, oh, I want to see coochie, but I think it's weird to bring up that like in schools they're teaching more about like the male anatomy, but nothing about like the female anatomy.
It's funny, I was never shown either.
Oh, you weren't shown either?
Well, during the like you're growing up and developing talk in middle school, yes, we were given a very undetailed diagram of lady bits, but we were never shown dicks.
Oh, okay.
It was divided by sex. So all the boys went in one room, all the girls went in one room. The girls only learned about girls, and the boys only learned about boys. And we still have no concept of each other's
Yeah.
anatomy.
Now, what grade were you in when you had that discussion? Because I remember when I had that exact same
5th
discussion.
grade was the very first time it was brought up,
Okay, that was the same thing for me then.
but then it was continued into middle school, but it never crossed the threshold of talking about sex. That was never part of the conversation.
Hmm.
It was talking about staying safe and contraceptive options, but it was never related back to the theme of sex,
Yeah.
which I find really interesting. You're going to tell people how to protect themselves against these diseases, but then not talk about how they can get them?
Yeah.
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. But to tie this back to the movie, because I think we may have gone off a little astray, but to tie it back to the movie, I think it's important to bring up where sex culture is, where has it been before we kind of talk about like the R word culture and the essay that kind of happens in this movie. Because essay is a big deal that happens in this movie. It happens to her like 4 times. So it's important to kind of bring up like how sex is seen in our society and how it was seen and how it's kind of evolved. So I think it's important to bring that up, which we just did for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think we're done with that
Yeah, I think we're
topic.
done with that topic. We talked about purity rings for a little.
Yeah, I wanted to go into real life experiences from people who were raised in purity culture and their take on how that affected them in adulthood as somebody who eventually becomes sexually active or experiences some kind of sexual experience. Um, so this is from shilohproject.blog. And the Shiloh Project is a group that's committed to fostering research into the phenomenon of rape culture, both throughout history and within contemporary societies across the globe. And they put out a survey asking people about um, premarital sex and the idea of that in their childhood and how it affected them and all that. So one person said that, and I'll quote, I was sexually assaulted in uni when I was still a virgin. Purity culture caused me to view myself as used and unlovable. Immediately after this assault, she attended a relationship session at an evangelical church, which basically boiled down to if you have sex before marriage, you're dirty and unlovable. The message also made me feel extremely upset and angry as I already believed in Jesus and I still got assaulted. So, where was I supposed to go? In a place where she expected comfort, she was instead told that she was now dirty and unlovable. She also reports leaving the church for a period of time because of this and still experiencing guilt and shame.
Interesting. Because I mean, everything that happens to Dawn in the movie is from that. Well, besides the one at the very end, is from that purity ring culture, and the men in that try to coerce women or try to persuade women, and I forget what the guy's name at the end is, but like literally took a bet that was like that her she was making up the purity ring and that like he could easily take it away from her. So it is kind of interesting to bring up that real life comparison into the movie because partially in that purity ring culture, people just want to fuck. Like they just want to do it, and they take this vow to try to stop themselves to do it. But obviously, taking a vow isn't going to stop you from wanting to fuck.
Yeah, and that actually just brought up where I was gonna go with that is, um,
Did you
we
forgore?
yeah, I did. It's, taking us back to Freudian times here, because even though Freud was a weird man, had some odd takes, he was still valid in some ways, and some of his takes were pretty accurate.
He's not to stray too off, but he is interesting because like some of the things he's ever like that's fucking weird. But then like
That
he has
man did a lot of coke.
yeah. I mean, so did Stephen King. So I mean, like the best psychologist, best horror writer. I
I
guess
wouldn't
cocaine
call
just
him the
makes him the best
best,
at anything.
but,
I know.
that's for another conversation. Anyway, if you think about Freudian defense mechanisms, one of them is sublimation, and sublimation is when you turn unwanted or socially unacceptable urges and you put them into something seen as productive or socially acceptable. So in this way, all of those people in that purity group, whatever the fuck, probably wanted to have sex, had sexual urges of some kind because it's literally a human thing that a lot of us will end up feeling in our lives, and it's seen as unacceptable to have those feelings. So they take that sexual energy and they put it towards not having sex
Yeah.
and being super passionate about that and raising awareness of this movement to not have sex. But that doesn't make the urge go away. You're just putting that into another outlet.
Yeah.
It doesn't resolve those feelings, though.
Yeah. Well, clearly, because it's like, I mean, if you if you want your to lose your drive for sex, it's something you have to like work for and like change your mindset. Joining a purity ring club isn't gonna make you not want to have sex.
Yeah. It breeds shame is what it does. It makes you feel bad about natural human urges that are bound to happen anyway.
Right. And something to kind of bring up with that, to kind of tie it back to the previous topic that we're talking about, is when the men break their purity vows and that no one really cares, but when like Dawn loses it, it's like a big deal. Like, oh, you broke your vows, like, or like, oh, I'm gonna test your vows, but no one's testing the vows of like some Joe Schmo in the purity ring.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Toby confesses to Dawn that he broke his vow or that he was impure before he took his vow,
Yeah.
whatever, and he like re-virginized himself by taking that vow. So in her eyes, she was able to forgive him for breaking his purity vow or for not always sticking to his commitment to saving his virginity. She was able to justify it. And you even see her go through some mental gymnastics for why it's okay that he's not a virgin in their definition of it, whatever.
Yeah.
We all know that's a social construct. But anyway, he's not a virgin by their definition, and she's able to justify that because, I mean, he's a man. It doesn't matter as much as with her, but when she gets R-worded, then she beats herself up for it, and the blame falls on her like, "Oh my god, I'm impure now. He made me dirty. I'm gross now." And there's no blame on him.
I think I think how she feels could be a metaphor for what you're saying, but I think she's more concerned in the context in the movie that she just killed somebody with her coochie. So I think that that might be why, but you could take it as like a metaphor for when somebody does get R-worded, that they kind of will shift the blame on themselves. You could see and use that as a metaphor, possibly, and I could see somebody making that argument for that. But I think in the context of the movie, she's more worried about her coochie killing somebody.
Yeah, which I think also is symbolism or a metaphor or whatever. I don't know what one
I
technically
think they're
fits
like
for.
this. Symbolism is like when like an object represents something, but a metaphor is like words having a different meaning, I guess, in terms of like film, I guess.
All right, that doesn't clear things up in this case, but
Okay.
her not understanding her anatomy is portrayed here, which regardless of if there's teeth down there or not, the point stands. She never explored her anatomy because it was shameful.
Yeah.
So she's confused when she's R-worded because she literally does not know what happened.
And I think there's also an element that she's like afraid of herself.
Yeah.
Like when she tries to pleasure herself, like she stops herself because it seems like either one, she's afraid of not being pure, or two, she's afraid of her body. I guess it kind of is just how you interpret at that moment.
And I think it's interesting that we see bits of male anatomy, but we never get to see hers.
Yeah, that's something that is interesting because you see a lot of chopped off peen and some fingies, but this not really off topic, but I kind of wanted to see Kikuchi just more so for curiosity. Like, what does it look like? Like, I want to see like well, I guess probably you wouldn't see anything because it seems like the teeth are like in there.
Yeah. I
So
like to imagine it's a black hole. It's a black hole with teeth in there.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I did this last episode, but I'm about to make a SpongeBob reference again. It reminds me of the worm episode.
Sandy,
That's
that's
not the
the worm.
worm.
That's
That's
his
its tongue.
tongue.
And then he closes his mouth.
All right, so do you want to tie that back to the film?
Well, it's like a cave, but with teeth. They think it's a cave,
Yeah.
but it's actually the worm. It's got teeth.
Okay.
That's all I have to say
Make it
there.
sound like that her coochie has like a tongue.
I mean, it's got teeth. I wouldn't doubt that it
I'm
has
sure
a
it might
tongue.
have some
Maybe it
saliva or something.
does.
Get get an extra blowjob while you're getting fucked.
It just goes while it's chomping down.
Oh, speaking of licking, that fucking dude at the end of the movie, It's like he was like,
Oh my god, that made my skin crawl. That gave me the most visceral reaction. My whole body was like, "Oh, oh,
Now,
ew."
did you like that? Did you like how it ended with that?
Yes, I
No,
would say yes.
I didn't like it. I like how we're
Well,
like flipped on that.
I don't know. To me, and you could say this about the beginning part that I said no on. To me, it shows that she's kind of empowered now. She's taking back her power. Like, he can't hurt me in the way that he thinks he's gonna hurt me because I'm gonna end up hurting him and he doesn't even know it yet.
Mhm. I didn't like it that much because I feel like it turns the teeth from like a personal thing to like a killer. I don't, I don't know. I feel like it kind of mixes up the metaphor a little bit.
Yeah, the one part I don't like about that is the fact that she now feels compelled to re-victimize herself over and over
Yeah.
again for the sake of getting revenge.
Yeah, I kind of just wish the movie ended with her like driving off. I feel like that's fine.
Alright,
Like she
you're
was
right,
leaving
I
town.
agree with you, you flipped me.
Okay, okay, yeah. I guess yeah, it's just I feel like if she wanted to cope with what had happened, she would just I guess try to stay with the purity culture or not even I wouldn't even say purity culture, just like trying to have consensual sex.
Mm, because part of her journey is wanting to well, she read about how in order for the teeth to go away, she needs some guy who's considered a hero to conquer them, and that one guy thought he was it, but then he ends up being a piece of shit, so he's
Yeah.
not. Um, but I wish, and this would never happen because it's not interesting enough to put in a movie, but I wish she went on, like, a self-healing journey and found out that she was the only one who was able to conquer the teeth by exploring her own body consensually.
Yeah. I think that'd be something that like a sequel would probably handle or like another hour to this
I
movie.
doubt they would ever do that
Oh,
because
fuck
we
no.
wanna see the chomp chomp.
Yeah.
That's what viewers are here for.
Yeah.
They're not here to see Teeth to Dawn's healing journey.
Yeah. Um
Dawn goes to therapy.
it is kind of interesting to see how these type of movies kind of change. Or like there's some it's basically just a thing is trying to kill something. And I'm not saying like a thing like Alien or Michael Myers or something like that. I'm saying like a thing like Christine where it's like a car. Or like that movie, there's like a movie called Slacks that came out a couple years ago that's about like a pair of jeans like killing people.
That's sick. Can we watch that?
Yeah, we can watch that. So but it's interesting to see these type of movies where it's like object kills people. And I think this is even though I don't like love the movie, I think it's kind of an interesting take on like human object kills people.
Yeah, because she's seen as an object as a whole.
Yeah.
Her whole being is just something to be taken.
Yeah.
Blew your mind.
Now I just want to watch Christine, so
Now I wanna watch Slacks.
um
If the movie had an ideal ending, interesting and likely aside, like, no viewers, we're gonna call this movie real life. What do you think the ideal ending for Dawn would be?
so like if Dawn was a real person
Yeah.
and like an ending to her life,
Yeah, what do you think would be justice for her? What do you think would end her story on a good note?
well, I don't think there's any justice for what had happened. Well, I mean the justice was seen a little bit because now those guys have no penises.
Yeah.
But
Well, she's forever stuck with the trauma,
yeah.
um, and you can never fully get justice for that because she's still always gonna live with the effects of it. But if we were to best see her story end in a way that feels right and satisfying, what would that look like?
I got two options here as a master storyteller. So I'm
Okay.
not a master
Alright, hit
storyteller.
me with it.
So either one, this is the kind of a heterosexual ending where she like keeps on her like because she obviously has hetero desires. I mean, uh, I mean, she fantasizes about marrying that guy. So I mean, she definitely has hetero like.
Unless it was repressed.
Let me get to that. Let me get to that.
Okay.
No, it's my that may possibly lead to my second ending.
Okay.
Uh,
Alright, I'm gonna hear you out.
so one kind of it's kind of streamlined. She actually meets somebody that like is like consensual and a good person, and then they just live a good life. I think that's one good ending. Another one is that she turns lesbian. That was the other one I was thinking of.
That's so valid.
I think I'm gonna be a pretty good one.
Yeah,
Just like I'm sick of getting R-worded by men.
yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe she never wanted to be with a man, but just thought that that's what she should want, so
yeah. And then the other one that even though I kind of shit on the movie for because the ending of the movie is kind of similar. What I'm gonna say she just like goes around just chomps a bunch of dudes' dicks off.
the
That'd be
one
cool to see.
it would be cool to see, but I don't know, I wanted to see some sort of I don't wanna say redemption arc because it's not like she's a villain, but I wanted to see a healing journey for her, and I don't know, I feel like a lot of people would find that boring, but in my mind, I don't wanna see her purposely re-traumatizing herself for the sake of getting revenge for herself and for other victims. I wanna see her be able to heal and feel comfortable in her own body because she's obviously very confused and traumatized and has never explored her body. So she, even at the end, doesn't really understand the teeth other than the fact that she can use them at will and she can use it to her advantage. But I want to see her conquer her own teeth.
Yeah, I think the reason why I don't like the ending is because it doesn't really line up with her character. I've kind of like pieced together why I don't like it. So like she's obviously been through all this stuff. She is traumatized by it, and then now all of a sudden she's just like, I'm gonna forget my trauma and I'm just gonna like fuck dudes and chomp their penises off.
That's true. She recovers from the shame culture so quickly.
Yeah,
And considering that's all she's ever known, I feel like it would take a whole lot longer period of time for her to go from, "Oh my god, I'm ashamed, I'm dirty, I'm impure," to, "I can use this somehow."
yeah, and I think a character that would like use that somehow would be a character that is would use their like sexiness to their like I'm not saying Dawn isn't good looking. I'm saying like a character that like lures men in by being sexy and then like chomps their penises off and then like takes their money. I feel like that's like a character that would like do that, but I don't think Dawn
Well,
is the type of character to do that.
she's not a character that's ever been confident about her sexuality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that. It reminds me of, there's a movie that was, like, a couple, maybe 3 years ago. We watched it together at some point about a woman who uses her sexuality to get back at men. She ends up dying in the end.
Was it Promising Young Woman?
Yeah.
That was it?
Yeah.
We
Doesn't
watched that
she?
together?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah. Yeah, it's kind of similar to Promising Young Woman. I don't really like that movie as much as I did when it first came out. I,
I haven't watched it in a while, so give me some grace here if I'm getting the
no, but
themes wrong.
so are you thinking because like she in that movie, I think her sister was essayed and then killed by guys or something like
I
that, and
think
then
so.
she goes through and lures the men in, each one by one, and then she does die at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize we watched that movie together. But yeah, it's kind of similar. Yeah, I feel like a character like that would maybe use the teeth in like the way that like the movie ends.
Yeah. That's kinda what I was getting at is I feel like that would be fitting of her character.
Yeah.
But Dawn, someone who was raised in purity culture, I feel like at I don't know, it's been like 4 days at this point since the last time she spoke at like a purity conference. I think she'd be having a whole lot more shame and confusion at this point.
Now, a character that I do think would use this would be Suzanne Stone from To Die For.
True.
I think Suzanne Stone would probably use that to the way that she wants, except use it more for for her to be famous. I think that's a character that I could see, or that character's type is like a character that I could see
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah. But I think she'd use it more to torture than to kill.
You think so?
Yeah, because she likes to coerce people into doing things.
Yeah. But do you think if she was given the ability to, do you think she would just do it instead of torture?
I think she'd do both. I think she'd do a mix. Depends on how it fits her needs and what she wants
Yeah.
out of the situation.
Can Gus Van Sant make To Die For 2 except its teeth? She like gets unfrozen from the lake. The lake has caused her to
To chomp for.
choke. But that's 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 all I can really think about. I do like the dad. I like the dad character.
Yeah.
And something that's interesting is like he's the only good guy in the whole movie.
And I found it really interesting that he's not the one that got her involved in purity culture. She did that on her own, and he was kind of like, I support whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think to me that says that she got into purity culture as a result of shame and wanting to not think about what happened to her as a child and never having to revisit the feelings and what happened and go into a re-traumatizing situation by saying, I'm just never going to explore that until we cross the bridge of marriage.
Yeah.
That allows her to put that incident in the past and not have to deal with those feelings and just move forward acting like it never happened.
Yeah, right. But yeah, and I think the mother's kind of a shallow-ish character. She doesn't really give much besides she's sick.
Yeah, she doesn't do a lot.
Yeah. I think my issue with the movie is just that it's kind of one note. I think it's like it's good at what it is, but like it doesn't expand. It doesn't like go further. It doesn't make any more interesting storylines or like expand on the idea a little bit. It's just like this woman has teeth and she gets essayed a few times and then she decides to chomp people's penises off. That's kind of like the flow of that movie.
To me, I feel like it wouldn't be as well received as it was if it did go further. Because I think as deep as it went and didn't go is as much as people were willing to take at that point.
Yeah, but people didn't really like the movie as is anyways. I mean, critics liked it, but I mean, audiences didn't like it. They gave it a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's how you know random Joe Schmo person
W-
didn't like it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was inherently controversial anyway. If they went even deeper, then audiences would completely hate it.
Yeah, but fuck them. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Fuck them. That's what I say.
He needed to make his money back that he
He
spent
didn't
on
make
the
his money back.
film.
Yeah, he made like his 2.3 million back, or his 2 million back. He made some of his money back, I guess. I mean, he's probably made some decent money on like home video sales and stuff like that because it was like 2008. I mean, like I don't think streaming. Yeah, streaming didn't really come big between like early 2010, so he probably made some money back. There's a lot more to the box office, especially in the early 2000s and the 90s and stuff like that, because people were actually buying movies.
Yeah. Dear Mr. Director, I forget your name.
Mitchell something.
Please make a Teeth 2 and explore things further.
Yep.
Give her a good ending.
Or I think it should be a different character and see what a different character would do with the teeth.
Oh, so multiple people have teeth?
Oh, that'd be good. Teethers.
Oh my god, what if there's like Dentata Anonymous?
Yeah, fuck these Marvel movies. Just do teeth too.
That would be so sick if they were all like a superhero group.
Is teeth gonna be in the MCU?
The Teeth Women solve rape culture.
Oh, I think we did it too. I think we solved sexism. I think we did all the
Yeah,
world's problems.
it's
But then,
gone now.
yep, no more problems in the world. Everyone
Just
could just be happy.
two unknown podcasters talked about it.
Yep,
Problem solved.
problem solved. We did it. Congrats.
Go team!
And you can do it too by giving us 5 stars on the show. You
Yep.
can't actually do that by giving us 5 stars in the show, but we would appreciate it if you could. Just
We
like we
would
didn't
really
solve.
like that.
Yeah, we did. We would. Just like we didn't solve all the problems here, but you could help us help you by giving us 5 stars.
And taking the themes of this movie and being more conscious about them in your day-to-day life, in the language that you use around sexuality and women and purity culture, all that kind of shit. Being more conscious about the way that you talk about these things can also be a way that you take this information and make it meaningful.
Yeah, indubitably.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Follow us.
Follow us
Yep, follow us on
on
Instagram,
TikTok
TikTok, and Spotify,
and all the other
and
podcasting
all the
platforms.
other platforms. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks. I love you.
I haven't jerked off since Easter.